those earrings.
Oh, thank you. I made them.
Come through.
Yes, I have.
Do you make jewelry?
I make everything. I can do so many things. I actually have them on sale on my site, which Dr. Clark is making me show you. So even though I'm like super shy about talking about myself, um, he's making me show you in a little bit. So you'll get to see my little site. So we love that.
Amazing.
Well, since we're recording, I just want to say again, thank you for joining me today and talking about you and also giving some advice for me. This is really an amazing opportunity, and I'm so glad that you're here with me. And so if you can just introduce yourself a little bit, and also like what you do and a little bit about the transgender district, so then we can get started.
Sweet. Well, thank you so much for thinking of me. It's an honor. And I really appreciate you saying such kind things about me. It like literally makes my Friday so much better. My name is Aria Sai'id. I use she, her pronouns, and I am 31 years old. I just turned 31. I'm a double Scorpio, Aquarius moon, and I am a transgender advocate and political strategist based in San Francisco. And one of, I guess, the biggest moments that I'm in right now is I am a co-founder and the executive director of the Transgender District, which is the first legally recognized district of its kind in the world. And so grateful and so honored and so lucky to be able to champion the empowerment of transgender people in this particular way, where we have a city-sanctioned district with boundaries in the Tenderloin neighborhood that's all about creating an environment and an atmosphere that celebrates the history, the presence, the culture, the resilience, the activism, the art, the stories, the journeys of transgender people in our connection to this neighborhood, but also just globally and our experience. And in addition to that work, I actually do public policy work. So I've done some policies at the state level, such as SB 179, which was signed by Governor Brown. It allows non-binary folks to identify as X on their DMV, driver's license, and the ability to change their birth certificates. I worked on SB 310, which allows trans folks in prisons to be able to change their name and gender to be gender affirming, and so many different other policies for intersex folks, for sex workers, HIV decriminalization. And so, yeah, I am very fortunate to be able to do sort of both projects of like cultural work and empowerment, but also public policy and legislation to increase protections for transgender people here in California.
Which I just want to say is such amazing work, and especially seeing like a trans person of color, like, and specifically women of color, like just give that fantasy and like push that towards, justice for trans people like us. Like, it's such an amazing thing. And I mean, to know that you worked on something that has affected me personally, like with an X on my on my ID, come through, not a driver yet, but is really powerful. And I just want to say thank you again, because that is honestly amazing. And I mean, yes, and I want to be more political, and right now I'm kind of in the middle of a whole mess of like trying to get lawyers and like all of those types of things. And so I guess like, how did you first start getting into like political work, and like how has that shaped the things that you've been able to do?
Yeah, I mean, transparency, I don't have a college degree. I don't, there are so many trans people who are trailblazing right now in that way. someone that I know and sort of grew up with, Vanessa. She's getting her PhD at UCLA, and it's just mind-boggling to me that trans people in so many ways are trailblazing and making the spaces safe for us to be in. My experience is you know, I moved to San Francisco when I was 19. I had dropped out of college, so I did go to college for a year, and it just wasn't for me at the time. You know, I transitioned in high school, and so and it was a different world. There were no trans people represented anywhere. The ones that I could find were like in library books, like, you know what I mean? And this was 2006, 2007, so not too long ago. But at a time where people just didn't, and where I grew up in Oregon, people had never heard of the word transgender or gender nonconforming. And I just knew that I needed to be me. And at that time, I think shortly after I came out as trans, you know, my parents put me out. I was in the streets as a teenager trying to make things happen. I was fortunate enough that I had, you know, skipped a grade in secondary school. So I graduated early. So I graduated right at 17 and sort of lived, I guess, as an adult, if you will. But it was very difficult. At that time, Isis King came out on America's Next Top Model. I don't know if you know her, but
yes, legendary.
Yeah. And you know, at that time, people weren't talking about trans people and our bodies and our experiences or our humanness.
Yeah, and if they were, it was terrible.
Right.
Yeah, it was terrible representation.
I would see them would be on Jerry Springer, especially as a trans person of color. And so, you know, when she came out on America's Next Top Model, it started this national conversation around, you know, the existence of trans people and trans, and in a more empowering way. And so, you know, fast forward, everyone told me San Francisco was the place to go. They're like, someone like you has to go to San Francisco. That's the only way you're going to be supported. And, you know, people like you can get jobs there and, you know, get surgeries or do this or do that. Like, that was always the narrative, was like, if you want to live a whole fulfilling life as a queer or trans person, you got to go to San Francisco. And so I did. I came to San Francisco and I enrolled in fashion school here. And, you know, was just really excited about my journey. I took a Greyhound bus from Seattle. It took me 3 days to get down here. And I came with $60 in my bag and just like a hustle and a dream. And that did not translate the way I thought it would. So, you know, fast forward months later, you know, I was sleeping on the BART train and, you know, doing survival sex work in the Tenderloin. And, you know, I learned so much about myself during that journey, just being a trans teen. But I think also, you know, you learn how the world does not value us in the ways that they should. And so I went through that, but I knew that I needed to be doing something for my sanity. You know, I had brushes with, you know, drug use and was living a very, very different life than I am now. And I needed a purpose. And I think, you know, no people, I mean, they do that now, but back then they certainly didn't. And so I started volunteering at a local nonprofit called API Wellness Center, and they had a drop-in program for trans people. It was called Trans Thrive. It still exists, but they had like a shower program, and they had youth groups, and they had like mental health support, and they had trans therapists. And it really was the first time for me to see trans and non-binary people and GNC folks in different areas of life. Like, not only doing survival sex work, some of us were, but some of us were, doing things like opening businesses or, getting married. Like, I'd never seen that. I didn't know that those things were possible for us. At that point in my life, I really thought all I could do was sex work. And so, that's what really sort of planted a seed that I could do something in social justice, and helping other trans people be empowered. And so from there, I worked in the context of nonprofits, from different programs, but I was able to get accepted into, well, two things. One is, I became programs director and deputy director at St. James Infirmary, which is, a peer-based occupational health and safety clinic for sex workers, in the Tenderloin. And they gave me my political education to think about oppression in a particular way, or to think about what disenfranchisement does to marginalized communities and how to like shift into grassroots community power. So it's because of them that I feel like I had like a political education. And I took a risk and I applied to this policy program for women. It was called, the Women's Foundation of California has a policy institute. And I applied, scared. I applied with a couple other trans folks, who were working at TGI Justice Project. And we all got accepted, and we were the first trans, people in their program, in their 20-year program. And so it was like a boot camp. It was a year-long program. And I was super scared and intimidated because there were lawyers there. There were people with PhDs in the program. And, I always had sort of believed that I just wasn't smart enough to be in those rooms. Like, my mind, I'm like, I'm just like a trans prostitute who like got lucky and worked in a 9 to 5. And, I think they proved to me otherwise. They proved to me that I could do that work and be impactful, and that it was special for us to be trans people in that room, because we were informed by our own lived experience, right? We weren't advocating for a community that we're not a part of. We were advocating for people that we knew, whose experiences we knew, what protections we knew we didn't have. And so, yeah, that's what inspired, working in policy. And it also, influenced, my work in the founding of the district, the transgender district. I was able to co-found with my lovely trans sisters, Honey Mahogany, who many may know from RuPaul's Drag Race, but she's gone on to now be the first Black trans, elected official in California. And then Janetta Johnson, who's a Black trans woman elder, and she leads, TGI Justice Project. But I think together we were able to, because of our connection to the Tenderloin, because of our community and knowing the history, I think we were able to really advocate for something so much bigger than we ever thought could be, which was that there be a dedicated space, recognized by the government, for and by trans people and non-binary people and GNC folks, and intersex folks, and that we can all come together and have, a space that we know is ours, and to see ourselves reflected in a tangible space, when so often our representation feels conditional. Pride happens every year. It's an amazing moment, but those flags come down July 1st. Do you know what I mean? Like, the confetti on the ground gets swept up, and then you gotta wait a whole another year to kind of celebrate pride in your body and your journey and your community. But what would it look like for us to have that 24/7, 365 days a year?
Yeah, which, I mean, literally, I think pride for so many trans folk is like a whole mess, because it's such a beautiful moment, but it's also like But what's the tea though? Like all these people are still hating us. When I walk down the street, I'm still getting called things, even by queer folk. People within my community are still saying things to me. And
Yeah.
so I think to have that space is like so amazing. And not only amazing, like it's literally creating like an energy that is getting passed through to other people and like passed through to other cities and like other spaces. And I think like also space is like such a weird thing because people say safe spaces all the time, but if
Right.
we love that and that is like literally creating that like image in people's mind of like this is actually what this looks like and this is what you have to do, and it's not just a one time, oh here this safe space, like you're actively working on it and working towards like safer and better like things for trans folks. And that's just fashion, the whole nine. We love it.
Yeah.
So
And that's I think why our allies are so important, is because, you know, we live in a cisgender dominant world. Most people on the planet identify, their gender correlates to what we think of when we think of sex assigned at birth. And, you know, the onus and the work has to be on them. Like, we've done so much to create spaces for ourselves to be safe, but that safety is only protected and maintained, if our allies actually step up and advocate for our safety and our inclusion. You know, and I think, you know, people have to move past the elementary stuff. They have to, I'm so tired of talking about pronouns. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
oh my
our
gosh,
pronouns are
same.
essential, but y'all have to do more than, you know what I mean? Cis
Like
people have to do
bare
more.
minimum. Like baby, we need the full nine. We need you in a 10-inch heel. Like at this point, you're in a baby pump. Like mama, the kitten heels have grown out. Like come on.
You know,
Like
yeah, they have to really step up if they believe, as they should, you know, in protecting the humanity and the safety of trans people. They have to do more than just put their pronouns in their email signature. They have to actually be challenging the culture and the world that we live in, so that it is safe for trans people, and non-binary folks, and that we then are, you know, not, I don't want to say included, but, that privilege is also shifted back to us.
yes,
Um,
exactly.
yeah.
And I think like for me, people just putting their pronouns, I'm like, honey, I've been had my pronouns since I was in 8th grade. Like, don't even try me. Like that was 6 years ago, you know? And if you're still like only focusing on that one tiny thing because you think that's like inclusion or whatever you think it is, like, no, honey, I want justice. I want to see people like me everywhere I go. And I don't want to just see them. I want to see them thrive. I want to see their joy. I want to see their smiles. I want to see their fashion. I want to see the fantasy that they deserve. And like, people like me shouldn't, and people like us shouldn't have to hide ourselves just for other people's comfortability. And that's just like period, point blank. And like my thing is we shouldn't always be the people, just because we are trans, that have to do the work for other people to feel comfortable. Like, no honey, I need you to call out the people that are being transphobic. I need you to put yourself in my shoes, because I'm the one that's always going to be unsafe, until these things change. Like, that's the advocacy I need to see from our allies. And like, boom.
Right? Yeah, that's how we get liberated. Like, we of course are doing the work to ensure our safety and survival in the world and the possibilities that we can thrive. But you know, the rest of it has to come from our community, who have the privilege and the power to be able to voice things, so that we're not always having to be hyper vigilant and see it, come into a room and wonder if it's safe for us, wonder if the restrooms are accessible to us, or you know, that folks are going to be supportive, or like we've done that work, and now the work has to be done by our friends and allies, and really step up so that we are safe.
Like, we've given all the bricks and all the roots. Mama,
Right.
we need you to make it thrive. We need you to
Agreed.
continue it. Like honey, we've held all of that like mess and oppression from everyone. It's
Mhm.
been thrown at us. It's been given to us as gifts. And honey, no, that is not a present. That is just failure on your part. Like
Right.
you should have held it for us and guided us as we guided you. Like it has to go both ways. And that's the thing, like as trans people, we're always going to keep trans people safe. Like that's just tea. But
Right.
we also need we need the help. And not only just the help, we need like that, we need to have people show and like actively do the work to protect us. So,
Ashe, yes.
yes.
Yeah.
So I know that one of the things that you're releasing soon or like getting started is the incubation process and or like
For
the
business.
entrepreneurship
Yeah, we
gig,
just
yes?
started. We just started,
Okay.
but we're gonna do it again in 2021.
Okay, work.
Yeah.
Yes. So if you can talk a little bit more about that process and like how that's like keeping trans people in the loop and like getting the gigs for them.
Mhm. Yeah. So you know, as a cultural district, we determined when we founded the district, you know, what some of the areas were key priority for us to ensure economic empowerment for transgender people. Um, I think, you know, for most people in the world, they don't actively think about the ways in which transgender people are left out. And so, you know, for people who are watching, you know, go to your local coffee shop, go to your dry cleaner, go to get your car fixed, go, you know, to the mall, go, you know, to the grocery store, and oftentimes you won't see any trans people working in those spaces. It's not because we're not applying. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're not given the same opportunities to economically thrive. And so, you know, something that we kind of had this idea was just like, okay, well, if the world isn't going to hire us, then we need to find a way to support trans people owning their own businesses. And, you know, if we're able to help 8 to 10 to 20 trans folks open businesses and ideas and what have you, then those 20 people are then going to help 40 people, right? Because then they're going to employ trans folks, they're going to serve trans folks, and then that is how we, you know, sort of create an economically thriving community. And so I'm so excited. You know, we're partnering with two projects. One is the Long Term Stock Exchange, which is a tech finance company. And we're partnering with a group called Go Paladin, and they provide incubation workshops for their community in particular, to start sowing the seeds of their businesses. And so we partnered with them, and we have 8 businesses sort of going towards becoming businesses. These are 8 folks. For our first foray, you know, we wanted to center Black and Brown folks. And so everyone, 100% of the folks are Black or Latinx, or Afro Latinx. And then we wanted folks with multiple barriers to entrepreneurship. I think it's very easy to think of like, you know, a small business in the context of like a Wells Fargo or Bank of America small business commercial, where like the white woman is, you know, putting the icing on the wedding cake, and do you know what I mean? She's wearing like her little chef
Yes.
uniform,
The
and
whole they try to give you the fantasy, but it's not really
okay,
the fantasy.
right. And so, you know, what we don't get to see is that those folks, not, I'm not saying all people, right? Like there's very much different journeys, but a lot of people who do have an interest in opening a business and are successful from the gate usually have monetary support from their family, or they have a house that they can use as collateral, which means they had the money to buy a home, right? Or they are eligible for small business loans because of their credit, or they have access to investors. And so someone comes in and believes in the viability of their business idea, and then puts their money in it, and then you leverage both. to make your business come alive and be successful. We wanted trans folks and queer folks who didn't have that. We wanted folks who maybe they had a bad credit score, have bad credit, they don't have, you know, a trust fund or whatever it is. We wanted to make sure that we were centering that entrepreneurship is absolutely possible for trans folks, especially trans folks with more barriers. And so that's what we did. Most of the folks in the program have those barriers, if not more. There's two folks that I know of, who lost their jobs during the pandemic this year. And, they're like, can I start a business? I'm like, girl, this is the perfect time to try. Like, what do you got to lose?
Yeah.
Like, you on unemployment, and we're gonna try to figure this out. And so it's amazing to see the ideas that have come forward. So we have, one person, they're selling waist trainers. Another person is trying to open a cannabis dispensary, like an all trans, Black trans owned cannabis dispensary, which I think is amazing. We have someone that's a chef. They're currently unemployed, but they want to do like a full bakery. And then we have someone that makes wigs.
I need to get their number.
Okay. And they're amazing too. Like she can, I'm like, they're all full and long. Like
I need the full 40-inch. I'm ready for her.
Right. And so yeah, like everyone's at a different stage. Like some people have sort of entertained the idea. Some people have never even considered themselves as possible business owners. And so we took them and we decided, how can we invest in them? And so each participant of our program at this iteration, we're sponsoring their full web design and their branding. So by the time they finish the boot camp, it's an 8-week boot camp. And so by the time they finish, they'll have an up and running website with a full brand, business cards, merchandise, like the little bags to put your product in and what have you. And then we are sponsoring the tax filings for each business so that they exit the program with a confirmed LLC or corporation, or like however they file. I'm still learning what all this stuff means as we go along. And then we're also providing them seed grants, cash grants, where they can use that money to further develop their brand, or buy inventory, or hire someone to help them, or pay for shipping labels, or like whatever it is that they need. Maybe it's turning their closet into like the storeroom or of their apartment, whatever it is, that they have the autonomy to make those decisions as a new business owner. And then hopefully, with that foundation, they'll be able to spread wings and go forward. And what's so great is that, since we announced the project, there have been different companies and stuff who've offered in-kind support with brand development. Some have even offered to match seed grants for certain businesses, especially like, when it comes to cannabis, and like, finding a way to support folks who've been previously incarcerated for selling weed or weed products, to then be able to be employed in the cannabis industry now that it is legal. So that's just like a snapshot of that program. In addition, we're also launching an affordable housing program in January, which is really exciting. We're working with a local developer, and they have tons of like new buildings, right? There's been a lot of development in San Francisco. And, we want trans people to have choice in where they get to live and where they get to call home. And that the housing is the best housing that we can get at a fraction of the price. And so that's exactly what we're doing. We're trying to find really, really great apartments and units, and folks will move in there, and the district will sponsor a portion of your rent. So your is instead of trying to pay this market rate to live in the Bay Area. thankfully, the one nice thing about the pandemic is that the housing prices have gone down. And so we're hoping to make it go down a little bit more. And this is our
And it
way.
needs to stay at that at
Right.
the like heavy
Yes.
like we it needs to be cut.
Right.
Like we're over it.
Right. No more paying 1,800 a month to live with a roommate or two or three or four or five, six, seven.
Yeah. No, and
Like,
here in Denver it's getting to that price. Like
oh,
it's
I can
ridiculous here.
imagine.
It's horrible. Like I mean I still live with my mom, but it is like terrible, terrible here. Like for a
Yeah.
one bedroom it's starting to get like 1,800. Literally one bedroom.
Oh, see, here, to get a studio in San Francisco, you'd have to pay about 2,400 a month. And if you want to live with roommates and stuff, like the average person I know that lives with two or three roommates is paying 900, 1,000, 1,200, 1,400. I know someone that pays 2,000 for their room, and they live in a house with four other people with one bathroom, right? To live in like a good neighborhood. So it's
Oh no.
crazy out there.
Yeah.
And we're seeing our city shift as these industries, there's a blessing and a benefit, but there's also a consequence of the world sort of going remote, right? And in a tech world, a world where we all have access to this technology and stuff, we're seeing that folks are moving into these cities that were once affordable, and the prices are gouged at these rates to where the people who've lived there for generations can't afford to live there anymore.
Exactly. It's a whole mess and it's terrible. And it's like
Yeah.
specifically here where I live in Montbello. Montbello is a part, it's like a small part of Denver. It's called the far northeast. And the prices here are already ridiculous. I mean, I think my mom pays 1,800 and it's I think it's four bedroom, two
Yeah.
bath. So I mean it's not terrible. It's still a cute little house, but I mean every year it's gone up. And so it's probably going up again next
Yeah.
year. And it's like in Montbello, the amount of gentrification is absolute mess. And like they're building new homes and all that gigarama because I mean we're pretty close to the airport too. So it's like it's a whole lot. So I know, and I know in San Francisco, it's been a whole mess for years and years and years and years and years. So, it's just getting started here. But I know that there's a lot of people trying to do that work, and I'm happy that you're doing the work in San Francisco because whew,
Oh,
that hearing that was
thank
no
you.
ma'am, no ma'am, no ma'am, no ham, no chicken, no turkey, like at all. So we love that. So I guess now, because we don't have a lot of time, this is kind of where Clark wanted us to, well, for you to kind of give me a little bit of advice and maybe help a few other folks that are like my age. So with the incubator, I mean, like I talked about a little bit in the beginning, I opened my business in August.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I got paid from the Museum of Contemporary Art for
Mhm.
this project that I was doing. It was $500. Started as much as I could with that. I mean, before that, I was working on a lot of stuff, and it was. I mean, I had a lot of like inventory, and my mom is actually a fashion designer too, so it's kind of it helped me start. But right now, I'm kind of like a little bit of a mess.
Mhm.
Um, and it's hard keeping a business afloat. And especially for me, like I help my mom and I work on my business and I don't have another job. Like for me, working at, you know, just a random place or something is just not safe for me. And it's just not like I don't drive. So I'd either have to have my mom drive me or I'd have to take the bus or Lyft. And like those things get expensive. I mean, the bus is fine, but then it's like safety.
Mhm.
um, and so I guess like for me, what would be some advice, not only for myself, but other business owners to like that maybe you've used or like things you've used to kind of just help yourself get through things because um, I think I know you've probably dealt with a lot of like just mental health issues with dealing with so many things and like being trans on top of all of that and like
Mhm.
having such a kind of big load on yourself of like things you have to do. So how do you like deal with those things?
Mm.
Get through them?
Um, yeah, it's so, I mean, I think mental health is a spectrum. And so for me, like there are really, really great days where I'm high morale, high functioning. And then, I do go through seasonal depression in different ways. Um, Especially, I mean, I'm in my 30s. And so for me, I'm like, I see so many people that I've come up with who are now getting married or having kids, and I'm not doing any of those things. And so that's when the depression kind of kicks in, like, oh no, am I, like I'm not where I said I was gonna be. Um, but I think you just have to, continue to give yourself affirmations. Something I love to do every morning is to look in the mirror and say, I'm a badass bitch. And it took me in the beginning a very long time to believe it. You know what I mean? Like, I think as confident as I was, or as I was projecting, I still had a lot of insecurities and I had a lot of anxiety about what people would think of me. And,
Same.
I think the the biggest thing that you have to remind yourself is, to maintain and expand what freedom looks like to you. You have to remind yourself that no one else pays your bills but you. Do
Hmm.
you know what I mean? Like, and you don't owe anyone an explanation.
Yeah.
Um, at least that's what I tell myself. Of course, that doesn't apply to every single situation in life,
Yeah.
but it definitely helps me, move through the world, I think, with a little more optimism than I normally would. I think, as young trans and GNC folks, supporting each other is going to always be vital. Finding like-minded folks. Not everyone who is trans and GNC is someone that you're gonna immediately relate to, but I think finding two or three good folks to bounce ideas off of, or to just talk to about different things has really helped me, especially when I didn't have access to therapy and stuff. I would just, yeah, I would be with my friends. My friends were my therapist for a very long time. Um, and they also were the ones that, encouraged me to dream, um, and to not just like look in the short term of whatever situation I was in, but to daydream about what the possibilities of the future could be like. And I think that really helps. Um, I think financially, like, you know, starting a business is really tough. And I think, finding ways to put yourself out there all the time. I think if you know that you're an amazing designer, and that, people love your product, the next big thing that you have to do is invest your time and energy into promoting that product. And letting people know the story of your work, as well, that you're not just like, a business person, but you're an artist who is working in a business context, and getting that support from community, and not being afraid to put yourself out there, or to do crazy things like message people that you admire and be like, hey, would you consider wearing my jewelry or what have you, and showing it to your audience, like it would mean a lot to me, blah 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 blah, like, and let me share with you my story. I'm sure you get these messages all the time. Like, I think, those things of putting yourself out there and not being afraid of rejection, is absolutely important. um, a
Which
fear
is
of
super
rejection.
hard for me.
It's hard for everybody. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, I mean, no one likes rejection. No one likes to feel criticized or critiqued or judged. No one likes that. But I think sometimes we let that immobilize us. Do you know what I mean? And we have to push through that. Um, like I used to always say, yes, of becoming. And so I think over time, like there's been so many, I mean, my own story is tricky. You know, I work in in the nonprofit context, and I guess I get identified as a public figure. You know, I'm very fortunate that my work is very highly visible, and I've had my own aspirations. Like a brand that I've shopped with for years reached out to me earlier, a couple months ago, to possibly model for their campaign, for their holiday campaign. And I was really excited, and I felt like I told everybody, you know, you know, that it was going to happen. And then they called me back and they said, you know, a lot of our consumers are in the South and the Midwest, and we just aren't sure that having a trans person be in the campaign is the right thing for our brand right now. And like, and these things are still happening in
Oh
2020.
yeah.
But I think the first time that happened to me was when I was 20. I don't want to say the brand, but it's a jean denim company. And they had asked me to be in their Pride campaign. And then they told me I was too fat to be in their campaign. And it wasn't them, the brand, it was the person working with the brand that was just very like, sorry, you don't fit the look. And it bothered me. I used to have a history of disordered eating. So I used to be very thin, but I was bulimic and, very critical about my body. And like, and that impacted me, right? I took it so personally. And now I'm like, what is for me is absolutely for me. No one can take that away. And so, okay, if you don't want me in your campaign, like, then fine. I'm better off. Like, I,
But yeah, the tea is that like, honey, I don't need you to be myself. I don't need you to feel better. Like, that's your
yeah,
legacy.
like the right thing will come. Like
Yeah.
a dream of mine is to, I get to see so many of my friends doing work that they absolutely love, and they get to have a lot more diversity with their work. India
Mhm.
Moore is a friend of mine, Raquel Willis,
Yes.
and they're going on to do these amazing things that they've been daydreaming of. And one day my turn will come. When it comes to those kind of things, I think you have to remind yourself that you have to get to a place, and hopefully you get it sooner than later, right? But I'm going to plant the seed. You have to love yourself unconditionally. And once you get to a place where you're like, I am all that I got, like no one's going to love me or treat me in the ways that I desire or respect me in the ways that I want, except me. And if I'm not doing that for myself, I can't expect anyone else to do it, right? RuPaul is like famous to say that, or famous for saying like, if you don't love yourself, how in the hell are you going to love somebody else? But for me, I'm like, how do you expect people to treat you the way you want, deserve to be treated, not want to? Because sometimes it, anyways, semantics. But like we have to really sort of love on ourselves, and I can't stress that enough. I know that for folks listening in, you won't understand it until you get older, until you've had more and more relationships with different people, and you see that even people that you think you trust will later disappoint you, or intimate partners can be mean or cruel,
Yeah.
like some all those things.
Disappoint yeah,
Yeah.
disappointment is like something I've learned a lot in the past couple years since I graduated high school. And like, you really just, for everyone, I mean, I know I'm only 19, but like, I grew up being unique. My mom has tattoos all over her arms. She dyes her hair. Like, she wears platforms just like me. My sister is unique too. She's more gothic. And so, like, growing up, there was always something said to us, even when I wasn't out as trans, even when I wasn't out as, queer, since I was probably like 9, 10. I wore crazy colors in my hair since I was that young. And so I've had to go through quite a lot of bullying and things said to me, and people breaking me down to nothing
Mhm.
and making me feel as though I didn't deserve love even from myself. And I think like that's something that a lot of trans people go through in general, because a lot of the times your family doesn't understand. A lot of times your family
They don't want
just,
to
yeah,
understand,
they don't want to understand
right?
either. And not only your family, but then your friends who you thought would love you no matter what will say things that you're like, whoa, like you really just said that. And, you know, going through all these things, losing friends because they weren't out and like they didn't want to be with someone who was so outwardly queer and outwardly like themselves. And like having to go through those things are going to be so difficult, but you have to prepare yourself for disappointment. Because, honey, when I tell you, I was like, right, fresh out of high school, I was like, your girl's moving to New York, I'm moving to Tokyo, I'm doing, honey, no ma'am, no ham, no chicken, no turkey. It doesn't happen like that. And that is okay. And sometimes it does. I mean, hey, if you have the shmoney, go have it, get it done. But like, you know, you have to prepare yourself for disappointment and prepare yourself for like, you know, the things that you didn't think would happen. Like all the time I would be like, these, it will never happen to me. Like I'm just gonna move to New York and everything's gonna fall in place and like the whole fantasy, but it doesn't. And so I think that that's really important, you know, for you to say as well. Like just always love yourself unconditionally and like try to find, like what I tell people is try to find one thing within yourself or like your body, however you want to feel, find that one thing that you can love and love that thing until you have no issues with it. And then go on to the next thing and then go on to the next thing. And, you know, of course, everyone has their insecurities. Honey, when I get that BBL and my 40-inch lace on and my arms sewn up, y'all are over. But until that happens, I still have to be living my fantasy and I still have to love myself because, honey, guess what? These arms are still flapping in the wind. And guess what? I'm going to fly over to the Goodwill and live my fantasy. So,
Right.
you know, that's like, you got to definitely find those things. And I think that's something that's really hard for trans people in general. But like,
But
definitely feel those.
yeah, like you were saying, like loving, especially, you know, loving your body before and after surgery, like
Yeah.
all in every stage. Like, you know, as a plus size person, I didn't start falling in love with myself until I was at my biggest, right?
Mm-hmm.
At my highest weight. And what it taught me was that I should love myself no matter what. Whether I'm this big or this small, I'm going to love me
Mm-hmm.
regardless. That's the
Yeah.
unconditional part. Even
Yeah.
if you want changes or surgeries or whatever it is, like,
Exactly.
don't make those be the conditions. Like, oh, I'll be beautiful when
When
I do blah, blah,
exactly.
blah. No,
Yeah.
bitch, you're beautiful now. Like,
Exactly. And that's what I tell myself. I'm like, honey, you want those things and they will happen. They will, when I get that check, they will happen. But right now, I know I'm still fierce and I know I'm still fabulous and no one can take that from me. No one can take that from me. Even, you know, working in this office, sometimes people will come in and give me the craziest looks because, you know, they're not expecting someone like me to do a drug test or do fingerprints. Like they're expecting, you know, black little hair, like in a little suit or something. Honey, no ma'am, no ham, no chicken, no chicken. I'm not hopping over to work like that. And so like everywhere I go, there's always gonna be someone saying something or looking at me cuckoo. But that's where I'm like, but I know that I love myself and I know what I love what I'm in.
mhm.
You don't have to love it. I don't care that you don't love it because guess what? I'm wearing it and I bought it and I put it on this body and that is period point blank. I tell everyone that I'm a walking art piece. I'm an art piece on this world. The world is my runway, and that is what it is. So,
Yeah. I think another thing I want to say to you and, you know, to anybody watching or listening to this is now is the time to take those risks and to follow those dreams and to really find out what you want for your life. Um, I am really grateful that I lived life on my own terms. This is part of why my parents put me out as a teen, is because I was very much like, I'm grown. Like that was just very me. Like they were like, okay, girl, if you grown, then go on, kid.
yes.
And I really love and respect my parents for it. I mean, they were intensely disappointed, especially when I dropped out of college and obviously being trans. You know, their fear, even though they weren't accepting of me being trans for a very long time, their fear was that I was then creating a space in which I could not survive being trans. Like my mom's whole thing was like, you may do this, but you know, you'll be able to make money if you have a PhD and you're a dentist or whatever. Like I'm like, I didn't want that. Like, I am so glad that I took the risk. I have been able to do that. Like I've, you know, traveled and like figured things out. Like, I'm not encouraging people to not be smart about making those decisions, but I will say, you know, moving to Tokyo at 19 with no money in your pocket is very different than moving to Tokyo at 31 with
Yes.
no money in your pocket. Like, do you know what I mean?
Very different.
It's just different. Like, I would not recommend, if you were in your 30s, to just like jump ship. You have to make smarter decisions. But I think the beauty of of being young is, you know, young people, what I love and what I miss about being in my 20s is you have an invincibility spirit. Like, nothing can take me down, right? Like, and it's projected. Like, I don't know if folks actually believe that all the time. Like, um, but I think what is amazing is that this is the time to try those things. This is the time to explore and to continue with curiosity. You know, I think it's so different for y'all in a different way than it was for me coming up, because the internet is a very different place than it was when I was. Like, back then, I was downloading stuff off of LimeWire, like music, and now there's Instagram Reels, and people have phones at 8, and like just concepts that just didn't exist. Not that I'm not that much older than you, but you know what I mean? Like, it's just a very different way in which information comes at us at a millisecond now, and that we can be heavily influenced and impacted in our mental health by what's going on in the world. But I just, yeah, travel, 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 travel. Now is the time to get that passport and to go to these places. I mean, obviously the pandemic, but what I mean to say is that, you know, if you are living in like Omaha, Nebraska, and you don't think that's the place for you to be, like, now is the time to move. You can always move back, right?
There's
Like,
those $25 to $50 flights, mama, one way, get it done. Like,
and see, I mean, worst case scenario is that you fail, right?
yeah,
Miserably, and like you gotta call home and see if someone will wire transfer you some money or Venmo you or whatever. But at least you know you tried. You don't
exactly.
want to be in your 30s wondering if.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm grateful I don't have that, right? So
Yeah.
I tried, I did, like, you know,
And
for
it's
me,
scary.
obviously, yeah.
It's so
I mean, for
scary
me,
because you
I
don't
did a
know,
lot of
right?
that as a sex worker.
Hmm.
So a lot of my traveling was for work, but I'm so grateful I got to do it. And now, like, I've been able to, you know, travel to different countries around the world and all that kind of stuff. And, you
Hmm.
know, there's just nothing like trying. Um,
Exactly.
if you want to open a business, now is the perfect time to try.
Yeah.
There's nothing holding you back. Even these days, like, money can't hold you back from, if you want to do something, you know, start an Instagram page or Facebook page for your new business. Start learning how to use Canva and, like, you know, merch or whatever. Like, there's ways to do it. Like,
And YouTube is a great little moment. I'm telling you how many things I've learned from YouTube at this point, like just in a few months starting my business, y'all. Like, it will help you. I just bought some lights and my microphone for my camera. So
mhm,
like there's so many things that, you know, you can do. And I mean there's so many, the thing is, you know, even if you had $100, mama, go get yourself a cute little piece slice of cake and then hop on to YouTube and figure a couple things out. That's all you have to do. And like, you know, so many things that I do and with fashion is I upcycle. So it's like you don't have to have like $20,000 to live your fantasy. Like, you know, money doesn't always mean everything. And also like just explore, go do things. And I'm happy that like I, you know, and very lucky that my mom allowed me and my siblings to just like explore and do the things that we were able to do. Like I lived in Tokyo, I lived in Spain for a
mhm.
few months, and like when I was basically a little kid, like I was 15 living in Spain by myself, you know, like I was able to do stuff that so many people don't get to do. but that doesn't mean like you can't make that fantasy of Spain in your backyard and like create that thing for yourself. And that's
Mhm.
the thing, like I've created so many things within 2 minutes of before I had to go on stage, and it worked out better than it would have if I had $20,000 to spend on an outfit. So
Right.
like, use your resources, ask your friends, like, reach out to like you were saying, that's something that I'm still struggling with too, is just reaching out to folks and being like, hey, like, can we do this? Is this cool? Like, blah blah blah. But honestly, I'd rather have someone tell me no or not respond than like never know if that could happen.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. And then I think my last advice would just be to find ways to monetize.
mhm,
Like, I mean, I know, capitalism is the root of all evil for our planet and what have you. But we do live in a world that operates within capitalism, and
yeah,
you do need money to make to give yourself the options,
mhm,
right, that you want for your life. You do need money to get access
yeah,
to certain things, and
exactly.
finding ways to monetize within your comfort zone. And in challenging that comfort zone is also important. Like, if you like to work independently, like, and like not punch in, punch out, like you gotta be hustling, like task rabbit, whatever it is. Like, I'm not saying take all the gigs to set up people's IKEA's furniture, but like finding ways to just like, keep cash coming in, because that's gonna um, you know, make it so that you have more choices for the work that you get to do, and it's sort of, paying your dues is trying to figure out how to hustle to get what you need, and then once you got it and like you're able to make those decisions,
Mhm,
you'll be able to springboard into the next level that you're supposed to be in.
yes.
And yeah.
I am queen of 20,000 occupations. You can ask anyone. I am accountant. I am photographer. I am designer. I am DJ. I am drag artist, burlesque artist. I'm about to go to nail school.
Mhm.
Like, I am literally queen of 20,000 occupations. So, do that for yourself and also have fun with life, though. Like, don't make it too serious. I think that's super important. Um, but yeah, before we go, I want Clark is like making me do this. So I'm gonna do it just so that I don't disappoint him. Can you see? Am I sharing the screen? Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Well, this is my website. I started it, like I said, I started in August. I took all the photos. I designed the whole website by myself.
Okay.
It was a lot of prayers, a lot of mess, a lot of mess ups, a lot of gigs. Um, but yeah, I worked it out. So this is one of my friends, Eli. They're one of my little models all the time.
Yes.
But I just wanted to show you a little bit of what I do. And so all the models are either black or brown, trans or queer. And so that's just like something that's always a part of my like gig. So these are just some of the things I've upcycled or that I've gotten as like vintage items. And so
This is amazing.
thank you.
Look at those boots.
Yes, I upcycled a pair of Jeffrey Campbell's. They were like in pristine condition, and I added like 14 spikes on each shoe. Um, but yeah, like I try to have as many things on the site as I can, and I'm always adding stuff. Um, but I always have like big sizes, small sizes, every size in the book. Um, but I just wanted to show you a little bit of myself, and like this is the work that I do. I edit everything myself. I make everything myself with like no help. Um,
Oh,
and
so dope.
thank you. But this is just the cute little moment. I just sold these
Love
yesterday, which was really like a highlight of my day yesterday. So, but yeah, this is my little site, my little business, and
come through. It's not a little business at all, honey. She's a full-fledged business.
she's out there. Yes, honestly, she
Mhm.
is, and I'm starting a YouTube for it. I'm working with one of the other people that are part of the program with me and Mr. Clark, and she's gonna help me film a few different things. So, but yeah, I just wanted to share that with you.
YC Boutique.
Yeah,
YC. Um, I'm like, well, I would love if we could support you in promoting your work
Oh,
um,
yes. Thank
on
you.
our platform at Strict, SYC Boutique.
Yeah, and then my Instagram is here, I have it on the bottom. It's gonna be Psych by Amayas. Wait, oh, that's weird. Okay, so it's gonna be this on the screen. Wait here, I'll share my screen again. We love that. Okay, it should be sharing now. Is it sharing? There we go. So this is the Instagram. I haven't posted in a minute, but I'm having someone now. I have a little bit of money to hire someone to get my Instagram going a little better because I am terrible about social media. So,
Mhm.
and that's one thing that like I'm always asking my friends in those areas that like I can't do. Like I'm not a graphic designer. I'm not good at social media. And those are the things that I like reach out to friends for and try to get help with. So um, but yeah, that's my little business.
Yay, I'm following.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And
And yeah, I would love for us to promote. Like if you
you.
ever, yeah, if you ever wanted to create like a little graphic, just like, some merch that you are selling and um, a little more about you and your business, like I'm sure there are tons of folks that would want to support from our side. Like,
Thank you.
yeah.
Yes. Well, I appreciate it. And I will definitely like this. You're a really great connection, and I'm glad that we got to talk. And I'm so happy that, we have a connection now. And I will definitely use that to my advantage. And not only my advantage, but because I really do appreciate you and your work. And you're such an amazing figure in not only my life, but I know so many other people's. And, the work that I want to do, you reflect a lot of that. So, um, yes, I'm so glad we got to talk. And I know we're a little bit over our time, so we got to wrap her up. But I just want to say thank you again. And I hope that we can talk more soon at some other time, some other Kiki, maybe add a couple other folks, the whole fantasy.
Yes,
Um,
please.
yes, I will definitely reach out. And oh, can I just like message you on the like Instagram
Of
or?
course. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I can message you something on there just about like my business and stuff. We'll get a little graphic together or something. I'm dropping some new items in the next week or two. So when that happens, I will send that to you. So then it's like new items in the full nine. But
Yeah, we're also launching our own like merch store
mhm.
in January. So it'd be great if like maybe you design like a special pair of earrings or something that
Oh
like
yeah.
we promote and like, and then we'd be able to promote the product on our website and like
Oh yeah, I would live.
yeah.
Yeah, I could maybe like I already have an idea. I've been wanting to make a trans flag choker.
Uh-huh.
And so maybe something like that would be like a cute little fantasy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would love to do that. So I will definitely be in touch. So yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you again for being here and just giving us the full fantasy and
Thank
teaching me
you.
a little bit. So yes.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Happy Friday.
Yes.
And I'm so excited about your business. It's beautiful.
No, thank
And
you.
I can't wait for us to partner because we definitely want to promote it either way. So just let me know.
Yes, I
Uh,
definitely will.
and yeah, happy Friday.
Yes, you too. Okay, bye bye. Be safe.
Bye.